So in-flight weather in Europe, courtesy of Golze, supporting the channel. ADL 200, powering in-flight weather from the satellite system up above. And I'm going to have an interview with Sebastian from Golze. Question number one, what made you create Golze and who are you?
Yes, so the first question, what made you create the ADL in-flight weather product line? Yes, I'm Sebastian Golze, the founder and operator of the Golze Engineering Company. My business is focused on providing pilots in-flight satellite weather data directly to their cockpit displays. Originally, this business started as a fun project, as I'm a pilot myself, and I realized I could really use this functionality after some unpleasant encounters with thunderstorms and similar weather. I realized it would be just perfect to have more weather data and especially radar data available in flight, and so I started to explore possible options. Back in the day, about 10 years ago, there have been a few options, but all of them have been extremely expensive, and so I started on the venture of creating a more affordable solution to this problem.
Question number two, what do you love about the product Golze?
Yeah, so the second question, what you love about the product? So having in-flight weather has really improved my own flying experience, especially as it took out a lot of uncertainty of the flight. So even if the weather is good, I have the in-flight weather and I know it's going to stay good, because before I've been surprised a few times. And if the weather is bad, at least I know what to look for and which part of the flight will be challenging. And if it gets too bad and something builds up too much, I have the option to divert and in general take the decisions very early. And I hate to run into like dead ends, so to speak, where one is running out of options. And so the in-flight weather has really given me a lot more planning advantage, so that I can take necessary decisions early. And most of the time this results in a much more pleasant flight experience for the pilot and also for the passengers, because we can avoid turbulence and other things much better.
Question number three, has the Golze system ever saved your skin?
Yes, so the third question, has the ADL system ever saved your skin? In general, I would not fly in a way which makes me completely dependent on in-flight weather, because obviously the system is non-certified, it could fail anytime, but still it has improved my flying experience a lot, but mostly by, as I said before, by avoiding situations early and taking decisions early, flying a wide deviation early and not running into the weather and then doing a very stressful last minute decision. So I would not say it has saved my life, but it certainly improved my flying experience and also my dispatch rate, because now I feel confident to launch into some conditions which before I would not have attempted. This is a very dangerous point. You should not get too brave and be always cautious, but often it turns out that the conditions forecast do not really materialize. They say maybe there are thunderstorms, but then the thunderstorms don't really show up, and on such days it's just great to have in-flight weather and you can do flights which you could not do before out of caution.
Question number four, have you used Golze to cancel a flight like I did during my Ibiza trip in August when I had to cancel?
Yeah, so the first question, have you ever had to cancel a flight, or did you cancel a flight based on the data provided by the ADL in-flight weather system? So in general, the ADL in-flight weather system, as the name says, it's in-flight, but you also get on your iPad app and iPhone app, you get the current data for weather data for pre-flight purposes, and obviously this can be very helpful, but the really unique selling point of the system is the in-flight weather capabilities, because you have quite some choices for internet-based weather services and weather forecast and so on, but it's really the in-flight capability which is then missing. Regarding the point of having to cancel, actually I've been very lucky over the past let's say decade. I do not really remember having to cancel a flight because of weather, but many times I modified a flight. So this means I departed a little bit earlier, I departed a little bit later, and this is, I think, the real art of doing it is to not run into a dead stop. Like you go to the airport, you have the passengers loaded the luggage and so on, and then you say, I have to cancel the flight, because this is a very unpleasant experience. So in general, the art, I think, is to adapt your plan early, and then to make it work so that in the best case the passenger in this context usually means my family or some friends, they don't even notice there has been a modification of the plan, and it simply worked out. So if there's a thunderstorm directly over the airport, obviously a condition you cannot really depart in, even whatever aircraft you have, but then I've had cases, for example, in Croatia, we saw that early with my co-pilot, and we said, but then we see the thunderstorms coming. Either one time we rushed a little bit, we said, there's not going to be a coffee, let's go half an hour earlier to the airport, and then we just departed when we have been gone before the thunderstorm come in, or we say, let's move it through, why don't we have a nice lunch, and everybody gets a dessert and so on, and then we used up some time, and the thunderstorm moved over the airport, and when we came there, the tarmac was wet, but the sun was already out again. And I think this is the real art of doing this. Obviously, depending on the capabilities of your aircraft, there are some conditions, icing and so on, where you really have to cancel a flight and cancel for several days. Fortunately, with our PA46, it's quite capable, so most of the time simply modifying the plan just did the trick for us.
Question number 5. Navigating embedded cells, any techniques, or do you avoid and divert?
So the fifth question is about navigating embedded thunderstorm cells, and what kind of techniques there are, and how they should be avoided or if you divert. So to answer this question, obviously the number one rule is you don't want to fly into a thunderstorm cell. There's at the end, there's no aircraft which is designed or capable, and also the crew and your passengers, nobody will ever want to experience a flight directly into the core of a thunderstorm cell. Obviously, in a thunderstorm, you will have a wide area of dangerous and unpleasant weather, but then you have rather small cell areas which are really the dangerous parts which can break up your aircraft. And the first thing is that do not let yourself fool into the experience that you did it a few times and it worked out, because you have quite a good chance of not hitting the core. So I had one customer who has been flying through all kind of weather for many years and said, it's no problem, it's just a little bumpy. But then one day he ran out of his luck and he hit one of those core, and he's been in serious difficulties, had to declare an emergency and so on. And this is really important. It's not to taken lightly. A thunderstorm is really a dangerous situation for an aircraft. So in regards to navigating them, if they are directly over the airport of the departure or destination, obviously you have to modify your plan. You have to divert if it's a destination. You have to hold if you can wait it out a little bit. You have to wait at the departure, and so you have to work around that. For en route weather, the best technique, if your aircraft obviously is capable, is to climb, because most of the time you will have a base layer of cloud, and then you will have the thunderstorm towers growing out of it. But obviously in summer, if you have no turbocharger, no oxygen, it will be very difficult, because quite often the base layer might be flight level 150 or so, depending on which region you fly. The Alps obviously are especially high because the terrain is already high, and so this is difficult. But if you can try to climb out of the base layer, which obviously means that the most dangerous part of the flight is the climb, because then you will still be in IMC. And then obviously use your equipment, so if you have it, the in-flight weather system, to see where the cells are. And if you have onboard radar, obviously also use that for short-range detection. So onboard radar in general aviation aircraft usually is limited in power. We have it in our PA-46, but it's maybe 50 miles and only 90 degrees opening angle. So you really see like the cell which is directly in front of you, but you don't see the big path, how it's going to continue, if it's a line and so on. So yes, use your equipment. If you have the onboard weather, my general recommendation is to avoid any cells at least by a 20 nautical miles margin, and if possible on the windward side, because most of the time it will drift downwind with the prevailing wind, the altitude wind, not the ground wind. And so if you go on the windward side, even if you have a little bit delay in the data link data, you are usually on the safe side. But also watch out for other signs. There can be dangerous lightning and so on, even outside the course. You can also have to expect any system malfunction on any in-flight weather system. There are many components involved. It's the satellite, the weather service, and your display and so on. And most of those components are not certified to the degree of any primary flight display or similar equipment. So always use that with caution and use it for situational awareness only, and use your other sensors. So to sum it up, I think in-flight weather is it's a very capable tool. It helps a lot, especially if combined with other factors. If you can see out the window a little bit, if you have onboard radar and other equipment. Flying completely in IMC with your only tool of weather avoidance being in-flight weather, I would be very cautious. So sometimes you might not be able to avoid it, but I would be very cautious and avoid the weather by a wide margin. And maybe also talk to ATC. They have a different radar system which is a little bit redundant, so it might be a good idea to reconfirm your assumptions about the weather by talking to ATC also. Regarding also ATC, going to be a little bit longer answer because the question is so difficult. Regarding ATC, I also recommend to actively speak to them, and for European ATC, do not expect that they help you with thunderstorms from their side. They're completely used to commercial traffic, which have a much more powerful onboard radar systems, and so in general they give you the route which works for ATC, and then they expect the pilot to complain and to say if that does not work out. So if your heading does not work out, they expect you to say I request avoidance heading 20 to the left, 20 to the right, whatever helps you. But this is really the call of the pilot. I have seen in the United States that ATC is a little bit more active in trying to guide you around any cells. European ATC, in my experience, they will send you straight through it, and then it's your job to request for an avoidance heading. Once you request it, they're extremely helpful. They will do whatever they can to make it work for you, but it's your call to basically start the process of avoiding weather.
Question number 6. What's the cost of the product and the best product that you have on your lineup?
Yes, what is the cost and what are the products involved? So obviously to get in-flight weather you have to have some kind of in-flight weather receiver, some hardware equipment which is able to communicate with the satellite, because that's where the data comes from, and then communicate with your display, which usually is your iPad, but then for our system can also be your integrated avionics like a G3X, IFD 540 440, GTN 650, 750, G500, and some versions of the G1000, G3000 displays and so on. And so the hardware we need, we offer 3 devices. So there's a fully portable battery-powered ADA 180, which looks a bit like that. So that goes directly onto your glare shield. Then the next option is the smaller but USB-powered ADA 160. This one needs USB power all the time, but then you see you have a smaller box. This one has some extra features, ADS-B traffic and AHAS. This is a bare one. It's also quite a bit cheaper. And then we have the fully installed device, which is this ADA 190. This comes also with EASA minor change paperwork, and so your maintenance shop can install it, and basically you don't see it ever again. And so which one matches better for your needs? There's no real use. Yes, there's no rule for that. So it's really down to your personal preferences. Obviously, if you rent an aircraft, you will need a portable device. And then if you have USB power, this is very nice and quite affordable. But often the power situation is not clear. And so having the fully independent battery powered device is a good solution if you are a ferry pilot, if you rent different airplanes, if you're flight instructors and you don't know what aircraft you're looking at. If you have your own aircraft, having an installed device can be a very nice solution, but sometimes there's some installation effort and cost, so yeah, that must be taken into account. The prices of the device you can find on our website, but basically there are different models and so on, you will see, but it starts at let's say 500 euros and it goes to 1200, 1300 depending. So this gives you a little bit the range. And then on top of that you will have the satellite service. So there are different options, but the most common option, which like 80 or 90% of the customers choose, is to have a continuous service plan. So it's a little bit like a phone deal, and then you have a cost of €39.50 plus VAT, if VAT is applicable in your case, per month for the service. And then you have 20 downloads, which means 20 updates of the weather included, which also accumulate into the future. So most people get along with those download budget very well. So you can say the monthly running cost of the system is then €39.50 plus VAT if it's applicable. So this gives you an idea. There are some competing systems you can research on them. There's a system from Garmin called GSR56, and you also have some, I would call them, more real internet solutions for aircraft, but all those systems are much more expensive. So if you have it installed, you are looking at over 10,000 euros for the installation, probably even 15,000, and then more like 80 to 100 euros per month to run it, so roughly twice what it costs. So the ADA system is really by far the most affordable solution for in-flight weather regarding the hardware cost and also regarding the subscription cost.
Question number 7, are there any exciting future plans for Golze?
So the second question is about future developments and latest news. So during the last years, it's been possible to really make the ADA system compatible with nearly all display solutions pilots typically use. So in the very beginning, the ADA device was just limited to being able to communicate with the ADA Connect app, which is our own app. But then this expanded, and now we can actually display the weather on ForeFlight, on SkyDemon, and on Garmin Pilot. So we have the major pilot apps on the iPad covered, and also for the installed avionics we now have compatibility with the Avidyne system. So we have the Avidyne 440, 540, X5000, and then the latest is we also have a way to make it compatible with many of the Garmin products. So this goes from GPS 695 to the GTN series. Goes to the G3X, G1000, G3000, G500, G600, and even so many more. So because it's like the FISB data format, and in the US FISB is very popular as we support this data format, the ADA devices can really now display on nearly all solutions. And so the foreseeable future is to communicate this to all the pilots, because I realized that even many of the existing customers, they did not keep updated on all the technical progress. So they have a device which actually can do a lot more than they currently use it for. So the plan is to do less feature improvements, because now we really went full circle. We have all the compatibility which was asked for. You can also contact your FLAM device, the traffic devices, and have this data integrated in the same data stream. That also works. Your flight plan transfer from GTN 750, 650, GTN GNS 430, 530, and so on. So we have really all the interconnect that was ever asked for. And now the real big challenge is really to tell everybody about it and to instruct everybody on how to actually use all those features. Because I realized that this is a big project ahead. So this is the foreseeable future for the ADL in-flight weather system.
Question number 8. How would you like the relationship between the flying vlog and Golze to develop in the future?
Yes, so the 8th question is about the future of Robbie's YouTube channel and his flying vlog. So I hope that you, as a pilot, Robbie, you can really improve and fly through more parts of Europe and gain much more experience as a pilot and IFR pilot, to really use the aircraft as a traveling machine. This has been a big step for me in the past. So for a long time I've been would say more a VFR fun pilot, and then I realized if I really want to see Europe and I want to use this for traveling, I need a more capable license, to having the IFR license. And then later on this also led to some changes on the hardware, so the aircraft used, and I've reached the point. I've not taken the airlines in many years, so I've not gone overseas in a while, and for anything else I fly myself. And so I wish that you can also improve as a pilot, and I hope that the in-flight weather system you are using with the ADA200 is really helping you to improve all your capabilities and to have a few very great trips. So good luck with that.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you enjoyed this vlog this week, a bit different to the usual. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notifications bell, and you'll receive future videos like this as soon as possible.